Bishop, Stephen, I think everybody's in for now.
All right.
Great. Welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us this evening. We're going to start with prayer, and then some introductions, and then some remarks by Bishop Fisher, and then we'll get into the thing for the evening. Um, as we gather for prayer, part of our work as Vestry, which we'll say more about, is to be prayerful. And this night, as we gather, let us pause and just be grounded in our bodies, in the spaces where we are, in gratitude for this way to gather virtually, and pause for a deep breath together. We pray the collect for peace. Most holy God, the source of all good desires, all right judgments, and all just works, give to us, your servants, that peace which the world cannot give, so that our minds may be fixed on the doing of your will, and that we, being delivered from the fear of all enemies, may live in peace and quietness, through the mercies of Christ Jesus our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Um, as we get going this evening, if you would just introduce yourselves in the chat, if you would put your name and your congregation in the chat, it'll give us all a sense of who's with us tonight. And as you're doing that, I'll turn it over to Bishop Fisher.
Thank you, Stephen. And well, again, just like Stephen said, thank you for all of you for taking time out from your busy schedules to be here tonight. And I just want to emphasize the importance of vestry. Vestry is essential to our ecclesiology, to our polity. So it's because of your wisdom and your volunteerism, your willingness to step forward in leadership. That's why we have a church where people can go to worship God. That's why we have a church where people can go to find compassion and mercy and hope. That's because of you, they have a church where they can go when they're grieving and they're mourning. Uh, because of you, they've got a community that can help them to break out of isolation into people that care about each other and to care for each other. I mean, it's nothing less than that. So thank you for being Vestry. Without you, we wouldn't have all that. Um, as Michael Curry has famously said, we are the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement that's out to change the world from the nightmare it is for so many into the dream that God has for us. Um, and we can do that because of you. So thank you. Thank you for that. And the other thing I just want to bring forward too, and I think Stephen will mention this along the way as well, is that uh, even if you're first time to the vestry, you've got really valuable things to say. I mean, everyone in this room has made big decisions in their life, big decisions about relationships, big decisions about career paths that you wanted to go on, big decisions about what community involvements you wanted to get into. Um, so you are more than well prepared to serve on vestry. You just bring this incredible life experience. And so um, don't separate your life from uh, all the things that you do in your life that are meaningful. And then what do I do in vestry? You are the person that you bring to this. So thank you so much for all that. I'm really grateful for you. Back to Stephen.
Great. So this evening we're gonna get into a lot of it's kind of big picture stuff. This is not so much all the nuts and bolts of everything, although we can touch on that a little bit. But what does it really mean to live into this role as a member of the vestry? So Vicky, can you? There, perfect. There you're already on it. We jump to slide 3. That's where we're going tonight. Here we go. Let us nominate you to serve on the vestry, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Um, I hope that you're feeling excited about the opportunity to serve on vestry. As the bishop said, it really is an opportunity and a tremendous place to use your gifts for the sake of the gospel. And we know that in some of our parishes there is a little bit of desperation or obligation in the nominating process, and we know that a lot of people do a lot of hard work in the church and cycle through some of those roles. And so I know that there is sometimes this sense of like, okay, it's my turn to serve. I'm gonna do it. Um, and as you come into that role as vestry, I hope no one just said to you, "Oh, it's just one meeting a month. You don't really have to do anything," because that's actually not true. You have an incredible opportunity to lead from your own life of faith and from your own gifts and skills that you've given. Um, and it's not forever. It is, we have terms on vestry so that there is an opportunity for different voices and different skills and different people to be present in the decision making and leadership of the congregation. So I hope it actually will be fun and joyful and life giving for you. All right, next slide. And so, really key thing to remember is that this is actually about God. Um, I know that sounds obvious. It is church, but sometimes we get into the weeds, we lose sight of that. So, a couple of things about this. Remember that God is God and you are not. Um, Again, it sounds easy. My spiritual director reminds me of this on a regular basis. It's good life advice and good vestry advice. And really that is to say, no one no one holds the whole parish. No matter how large or small the parish is, there's always opportunity to raise up new leaders and recruit them. God is always doing something among you, and so you don't feel like don't. We hope that you don't feel like you have to carry the whole piece of that leadership. That you're relying on one another, and that in that you're seeing God at work in you, and really God leading the congregation. Um, trust that trust that the Holy Spirit is present and moving. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to pray without ceasing. You probably pray at the beginning and end of vestry meetings. And I hope that that's a rich moment of devotion together. Different vestries do that in different ways and share that responsibility in different ways. But when I say pray without ceasing, it's not just to say you should pray before and after meetings, but to really engage as a group of Christian leaders. Legally speaking, you are a sort of board of directors, but that's not, you really are a gathering of Christian leaders. So really genuinely invite God into the space. Pray for each other. I hope that as you live into your role in vestry, that you have a chance to really build and deepen your relationships with your fellow parishioners, and that you have opportunity to pray for each other and with each other. Pray together, pray on your own. Pray. We have a couple of our priests joining us tonight. It's not just the priest's job to pray. It's a responsibility that's shared. Pray when you're feeling grateful, and pray when things get hard. If you're in a vestry meeting that's getting tense and you're feeling like there's a lot of wrestling or tensions are running high, be the one to say, "Hey, maybe it's time to just pause and pray together for a minute." There are so many different ways to pray and ground, and I invite you into that practice. So it's about God and it's about who God created you to be. So we invite you to bring your best self to vestry. Even if it's late on a Tuesday night and you're tired and you want to get home and see your favorite TV show or sporting event, you have been elected to this position, and you bring those gifts and skills we've been talking about. Bring that approach that we can work this out. We can wrestle with hard things together. This isn't an easy time to be church, whether small or large church. Feeling like we're thriving and growing, or feeling like we're struggling. None of it's easy time to be church. So bring your best self to vestry. Take the time that you need to prepare, and take that deep breath for a second or 5 minutes or 15 minutes before you come into the vestry meeting so that you're ready to bring that best self. Um, You're elected to represent the congregation, and so I hope that you're connecting and engaging with people and bringing some of their perspectives, but you also are elected because of who you are. And so don't be afraid to really bring yourself to that conversation. And in that, we strive to be resilient, non-anxious people who are not afraid of conflict. Now, we don't want people who are excited to start conflict, right? But we also don't want to be conflict averse. Hopefully on Vestry, you've got people who are willing to express their points of view and who, I was with a Vestry on Saturday that expressed this really well. They really wanted to say, just because my viewpoint about an issue is different from your viewpoint on an issue doesn't mean we have to attack each other about it. And that my difference is not meant as an attack on someone else. And all of us just sort of can naturally fall into that feeling in a heated moment. But really, how can we stay focused on the hard things that we need to wrestle with together and really be the body of Christ together, recognizing each other as full members of this communion of faith. And I think part of that too is to regularly ask whose voice might not be at the table. Is there someone, some perspective that's missing from around the table? And you can think about that in terms of all kinds of different demographics, but also to be mindful, I'll say this again in a moment, but to be mindful of the people who aren't yet sitting in your pews, or the people who come in and out of your building but aren't sort of traditional on paper in the parish register members of the congregation. How do those voices get represented in those conversations as well? Okay. So sort of to that end, we have, this is a 6-minute video of which we're only going to show 2.5 minutes, but just so that we kind of use our time wisely tonight. But it's always a moment to pause and think about how we approach situations as differentiated leaders. And this video will talk about what that means.
A leader is someone who influences a group of individuals to accomplish a common goal, whether that goal is to design a fuel-efficient car, respond to an international military crisis, or find a new company health plan. Now, there are many different ideas out there about how to become an effective leader. Some suggest that leaders must have certain traits, such as intelligence or self-confidence, sociability, maybe even being tall. Others say it's about technique or skill that leaders can acquire. But in A Failure of Nerve, the late Edwin Friedman goes against the grain of leadership studies and suggests that effective leadership is not about traits or skills as much as it is an emotional process of regulating one's own anxiety. He refers to this process as self-differentiation, or knowing where one ends and another begins. This is a systems perspective on leadership, rooted in cell biology. Take this healthy biological cell. It has a nucleus, which controls the activity of the cell. It has these mitochondria floating around here. And it has a cell membrane, which keeps the cell separate from other cells when they hang out together to form biological tissue, like this heart. This heart cell is differentiated. It knows its purpose is to pump blood. Bum, 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 bum. Despite what these uppity brain cells may think. Bum, 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 bum. Not only are we humans made up of these cells, we function like them. We also form ourselves into groups, whether these are families, companies, or nations. Like an individual cell, a differentiated person can stay connected to others without losing his or her identity, or without taking on the emotional anxiety of the group. A differentiated leader can take a well-defined stand even when followers disagree, while remaining connected in a meaningful way with others.
Thanks, Vicky. So hopefully, as you're listening to that, you're hearing a little bit about and perhaps thinking about meetings that you've been in, maybe with your family, maybe at work, maybe if you've got experience already on Vestry, and thinking about maybe some of those opportunities to practice that. So I just wonder, I've been talking a little bit, and I can't see you all as well when I'm presenting here, but any sort of comments about things that stood out to you about that video, or things that you want to carry forward?
You can just unmute or raise a hand if you want to weigh in at this point.
I'm sorry I can't be visually seen. I don't know what's going on with my video. I apologize. But Stephen, I guess one observation I've had about that is that it takes practice. I think it really takes practice and an opportunity to experience that and decide how you are going to self-differentiate in times that can feel emotionally charged. Particularly as a priest, you know how hard you've worked, and when someone says, hey, you should be doing it differently or working harder, it can bring forth emotion that really probably would be better served self-differentiated.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I think as we practice that, I think each of us as individuals finds our own kind of strategies for that. And we have our own kind of growing edges as we live into that. Anyone else? All right, we'll keep going. So we've said so far about Vestry, it's actually about God and about who God created you to be. And this is our reminder that you are the body of Christ together. So as a vestry and really as a faith community and as a person, I invite us to become a learning community. I think often some of us, myself included, like to have everything all figured out. But really, it's not a good sign if we sort of come in and have think we know all the answers and have everything figured out. It can be hard to put into practice because as Elle was just saying, like we sometimes work really hard on something and we're not quite ready for the feedback that might come, even when that feedback can enrich the overall idea and the process. So it takes a lot to approach things with a spirit of learning. But I think the church is alive and growing and changing, and so it always has to be learning new things as a body, and then each of us as individuals too. So I invite you to take that approach to your vestry meetings and your vestry business to continue becoming a learning community. Move up, move up. This is a phrasing that I like to use that sort of talks about two sides of the same coin. Some of us are people who tend not to speak up in meetings. And if you're one of those people who knows that you tend to be a little bit quiet, that's okay. There can be a real gift in that. A lot of times those folks are deep listeners and they're kind of taking it in. But don't be afraid when you've got something meaningful to say to step up and say it. So to move up in that way. And for those kind of on the other side of the spectrum who are quick to jump in, and often these are folks who have a real gift for kind of processing out loud and for getting ideas out, and that's a gift. But also there's a time and space to make sure that you step back and let others speak. And so to be tending to one another in that, and to be tending to ourselves, to bring forth and to kind of lean into growing edges wherever we kind of fall on that spectrum. And really, on vestry, there are times that things need to be said, and there are times that things don't need to be said. So some speeches can stay unspoken. But when you have a real sense that something needs to be said, that there's something important, then it's time to speak up. So as you meet together, I hope you'll have an opportunity to kind of get to know your other vestry members and start to get a sense of who they are and what their gifts are. And I invite you just to, in your vestry time, to build in some space for those who think and process differently, to maybe kind of just give a little bit of space when there's a big decision that's been put on the table. Give people a minute where no one speaks to get some time to think. Um, and when voices start to get kind of talking on top of each other, which is not usually a good thing. Hopefully, you have kind of a practice that one person speaks at a time. But we all know that when we get in the heat of the moment, either angry or excited, we can start jumping in over top of one another. Um, when that's a difficult situation, or you sense that some voices in the room really aren't being heard over the louder ones, I encourage folks to just pause and literally go around in a circle, and no one has to speak, but give each person in turn a moment to share their perspective, because it slows the conversation down and allows those who might not have been ready to jump in that moment to gather their thoughts and to offer that. Sometimes in those heated moments, those perspectives get silenced, and we want to make sure that those get heard. And I encourage you to practice one-on-ones and group check-ins. There are all kinds of ways to do one-on-ones, but I think it's a great way to build relationship. So often I talk to people in congregations, and they have chit-chatted at coffee hour Sunday after Sunday after Sunday sometimes for decades, and they don't always know really deep stuff about each other. Some people do, and some congregations that's really the ethos. But in other places, all of a sudden people realize they haven't had those deep moments of conversation. So, you know, take each other out for coffee as vestry members to build those relationships, because it'll help strengthen that group dynamic as you meet together and tackle hard things. Or take a few minutes to do a little mini one with each other at the beginning of a vestry meeting. And take time to check in with one another. That a simple question that people answer, or part of your devotion to have everybody have an opportunity to bring something to the table. However you want to do that, to take an opportunity to get to know each other and build those relationships. I see a comment. I think I missed a couple, but that's a great idea. The senior warden has a red cup. To signal someone has something to say. So when you turn it up, it means you'd like to join the conversation. That's really great. And right. And so when that was introduced, there was a lot of laughter, which is also a really healthy thing. That laughter is a way to, we never want to kind of throw edgy humor in when things are tense, but to be able to laugh together and to try something silly helps change our dynamic. And that's a wonderful gift. Thanks for sharing that, Sandy. All right. So how do we make decisions together? I've had a couple of conversations with some committees and vestries about this in the last year. It can be hard sometimes to make difficult decisions where most people aren't all on the same page. So a couple of things to think about. Some issues are just too complex and difficult to solve in a single meeting. As a general rule, big decisions require at least 2 meetings. One where you put all the information on the table, and another for making the decision. So, hopefully you're sending information out with the agenda in advance of the meeting, and you're coming prepared. But that doesn't mean you've had time to discuss with others and think. So a lot of times I'll hear, well, yeah, we sent it out ahead of time. We brought it to the vestry, and then we voted. If that's a big decision, then some people may not have time to really digest it and to hear the other opinions, and might need some time. And so, really, if anything feels like a big decision to your vestry, take the time that you need, and don't make decisions before you have all the information. Right? It can be tempting to move things along. We don't want to have to meet again. We want to keep things moving, but really take the time to ask the questions and then go get that information. Obviously there are emergency decisions that have to be made. If the boiler's down and it's the middle of winter and you've got worship on Sunday, there's some speed to that. On the flip side, don't wait to make decisions once you do have all the information. Once you've given adequate time for input and engagement and you've got all the information, it's also not healthy to wait too long. and to, if you've got one holdout and you don't want to vote, I mean, there is a time to move things forward as well. Respect time and agenda, come prepared. So start on time, end on time, and have read the reports ahead of time. There's a practice of having the consent agenda. So all the decisions that sort of get made at every vestry meeting that can kind of move forward, that usually at least includes kind of accepting the agenda, the minutes, and some of the reports. uh, uh, Regular treasury report, those kind of things. Things can always be pulled out of that, but it kind of helps the meeting move along if some of those regular things can be voted on in a block. Um, about decision making, I'll say, there's a desire, I think, a lot of times to work toward a consensus, and I think that's a really healthy thing. Um, if you're trying to choose between choice A and choice B, sometimes that gets into this back and forth counterpoint argument. Well, this way, no, that way, this way, no, that way. When you really kind of slow the conversation down in the ways we've talked about, there may be a third option that emerges, in especially in things that are more adaptive kind of work. I'll say a word about that in a minute. Um, or maybe clarity will emerge. Maybe some of the concerns that people have about B will kind of be alleviated in the conversation, and people start to gravitate toward A. So, um, if your vestry is about to take a vote and you have the sense that this is a significant decision, it's going to be split right down the middle, like an 8-7 vote. Well, that's in my notes. That's a very large vestry. But let's go with that, 8-7, right? That can really come back and be difficult. That's a lot of people not on board with the decision, even though it's technically a majority. Um, but if it's 11-2, that's kind of pretty significant consensus, and you don't always have to be unanimous about everything, um, as long as you've had time to process together and make decisions in a respectful way with each other. Um, and in all of this, part of your role as vestry, and I think that's one of the big challenges of vestry, is to tend both to technical and adaptive work. So technical work are those things that have easy, clear solutions, where if you get someone with the right expertise, you can probably solve the problem without a whole lot of thought. And usually people don't get too emotional about that kind of stuff. Right? When the pipe is broken, you call a plumber. The plumber has the technical skills. They fix the pipe. Um, when the email isn't working, right? It may be very frustrating, but there's a technical solution, and you solve that. The adaptive work is that people work and that relational work. Where are the places that need some tending and discussion and creativity to arrive at good solutions? Sometimes we try to solve the adaptive problems with technical solutions. We say things like, "Wow, we sure wish there were a whole lot more people in our pews. Let's send a postcard out to everybody in our neighborhood." Well, that in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but it's not going to solve the adaptive challenge of building those relationships in your community, right? Oh, here's a quick fix. Let's see if that works. So sometimes it's important to distinguish between the two of those. Um, and I was going to say about that too, that thank you, Vicky. I was ready to go on to the next slide, and that I had another thought. Um, that Now I've lost it. Oh, that it's really important, in your vestry time to spend some time visioning. It can be easy as vestries to get kind of bogged down in all of the important things that keep the church running week to week and month to month and year to year, and all that is really important. And I hope that your vestry is spending some time doing some big picture visioning, and not just once a year at a vestry retreat, but in an ongoing way. Build some time into your agenda for stepping back and thinking big picture about one of your ministries, or about one of the big questions that you're wrestling with, or one of the goals you've set for yourself for the year. Um, yeah, it can be hard to do, but it's worthwhile. And listen for God at work in other places. Be outward looking. Think about uh, that question I mentioned earlier, who's not at the table? Who's not in your decision-making process? Who's not in your pews yet? Always look for new partners. When you're going to start something new, who are the people who are already doing that well in your community, and how can you join with them? Or who might be likely partners who have the same mission and vision and goals? And really spend some time in your vestry meetings, dedicated to thinking about those things, thinking about what's out there still. How are we connecting with those in our community, and not in a way that we're trying to like get people and pull them in, but that we care about the gospel, and we believe that we really have something rich and powerful and wonderful to share, and that compels us to really important work in the world. And how do we take that out of the walls of our congregation buildings? Great. So a couple of brief tools to share with you. We offer mutual ministry reviews and strongly encourage mutual ministry reviews. This is it's a visit from somebody outside your congregation. You can contact me, and if I'm available, I can come and spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with your vestry, and spend some time thinking about where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. And I've tailored those to where the congregation's needs are in the particular moment. And we have some other people too in the diocese, or if you've got trusted colleagues nearby who have availability, you could invite them to come and do that. It's just helpful sometimes to have that outside voice and perspective to listen in and guide some conversation about all of that. So that's available to you. And there are a ton of resources available on the Episcopal Church Foundation website. This link is here. There are just sort of all kinds of practical things in different areas around stewardship and finances and vestry leadership and how to do a vestry retreat. All kinds of things out there. And if you've got questions, you can always reach out to us at the diocesan office. We're going to share some names and contact at the end. But I think that's my part. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Bishop Fisher.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for all that, and thanks for the many ways that you serve our churches. Really appreciate that. So I'm going to look at different styles of leadership, and it really kind of supports different things that Stephen's already said about having different viewpoints and respecting those viewpoints. And so, and this isn't something I developed on my own. I've gotten this from a whole lot of different management type leaders. And so what I've done is put a color to each one, because it's better to imagine the color. So one is what we're going to call the green one. And that's the leader that's all about relationships. And so it's a leader that says everybody's got to be on the same page. We need to be communicative. We need to get people to express their opinions, but then to ultimately come to a decision all together. It's all about staying in relationship. And that's really important. To stay in relationship is really important. But I remember speaking with a vestry chair one time, a senior warden, who said, he had this big decision to make, and it's a hard decision, and we just don't have enough votes to make the decision. And I remember saying to her, I said, well, what's the vote? And she said, well, I look around the room and I can count who's going to be for it, who's going to be against it. And there's going to be 9 people that are for it, and there's going to be 2 people that are against it. We don't have enough votes. Well, that's all about, again, building those relationships so that everybody can be on the same page. And that's important, but it's not the only way to lead. So the relationship voice needs to be in the room, but then there needs to be other voices in the room. So another one, which I'm going to call yellow, just for the sake of giving a visual, is the leader that's evidence-based. That's he or she is saying, listen, what's the evidence that we can do this? So like we say we're a growing church. Well, are we? It could be that we're growing in ministry. That's great. But is average Sunday attendance going up or down? Or more people being baptized or confirmed? Or they could say, oh yeah, we want to lead a capital campaign. We want to raise $500,000. And the evidence-based leader would say, I would love to raise $500,000, But what's the evidence that we can do that? What's the thing that backs that up? So it's someone who says, just let's look at the facts and build on the facts. So there's the evidence-based, the relationship-based leader. There's the evidence-based leader. Then another one. And that's what, and Stephen has alluded to this before, the person who says, what's the big picture here? What are we actually going after? So in so many ways, that's Michael Curry's definition of the kingdom of God, right? Where he says, we are the Jesus movement, the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement that's out to change the world from the nightmare it is for so many to the dream that God has for us. That's the big picture. You know, all the other things that you talk about in terms of average Sunday attendance, pledging, is that leading towards being the Jesus movement that's out to change the world from the nightmare it is for so many into the dream that God has for us? What's the big picture? And so that person's going to say, okay, you know, we're doing all these different things. How's that leading to the kingdom of God? The big picture. So that's one, blue. And then the final one, there's going to be more than this, but I'm just going to stay with 4. This red, which is the person that says, if it's not fun, why are we doing it? You know, we get those times in Vestry where it seems such a burdensome thing. And yet Jesus says, I have come to bring you joy so that your joy may be complete. What we're looking after it's a sacrificial religion, but at the same time, it's a religion that says we are called to joy. We're called to look at the present moment and see it as a blessing. How's God blessing us right in this moment, even if it's a struggle? If it's not fun, why are we doing it? And some people who apply to this say, that's also someone who, when there's a challenge to the church, something like they've never faced before, they can say, oh, this is great. This is going to be great. This is something that we've never faced before. We're going to learn something new doing this. It's going to be fun. So those dimensions all need to be in the room. Like any one of those dimensions is good, and yet any one of those dimensions is just part of the big picture. So does your vestry, think about your vestry right now. Does your vestry have someone who's green, who's all about relationships? Is there someone in your vestry that's all about evidence? Give me the facts. Give me the facts so we can base our decision on the facts. Is there someone who says, what's the big picture here? What are we all about? What are we all about? And then the person said, if it's not fun, why are we doing this? Why are we driving ourselves crazy? Why can't we take joy in what God has given us? And if all 4 of those things come together, when there's disagreement, just like Stephen has mentioned, with disagreement, it's not like, oh, you're opposing me. It's like, no, you're actually contributing something that I can't contribute. You're giving a perspective that's different from my perspective. And we get all the perspectives together, then we've got a complete picture. Then we know what God is calling us to. So I'm going to ask you right now, which one are you? Are you a leader that's all about relationships? Are you a leader that's all about give me the facts, give me the evidence? Are you a leader that's all about what's the big picture? What are we looking to attain here? Are you a leader that says, if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Because all those voices are really valuable in the room. So I want you to think about which one of those fits you. And then you could say, well, you know, at different times, I'm all of those things, depending on the circumstance. The totally valid thing to say. But then the next question would be, when you're under stress, which is the one you go to? When you're under stress, which is the leadership relationship that you go to? Which is the one that you say, this is how am I going to express myself? So I'm going to ask Vicki to just throw this out to the whole room here. And if you want to speak, just hold up your hand or your digital hand and say, I'm blue. I'm blue, which means I'm the big picture person. I'm green. Everything's about relationships. I'm yellow. It's about evidence-based. I'm red. If it's not fun, why are we doing it? So I throw it open to you.
Bishop, how about we do a little poll and let people weigh in
Okay,
before we discuss it?
sure. That's a better idea. See, I didn't have all the ideas.
So, so you should be seeing a little poll there. Has it come up?
It came up, but then it went away.
Oh, how awful. Let's do it again. Here we go. There we go. Are you relational? Are you evidence-based? Are you a big picture vestry member? Or are you the one who says, if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Okay, numbers are coming in here. Give it another second. We've got 75% of you in. You can only pick one. 86, 88. We're just about there, and then I'm going to show you the results. Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay. And it looks like we have an evidence-based an evidence-based lead. Very narrow lead there. Lots of relational leaders. We've got 8 big picture folks and a few that are just having a good time. That's wonderful.
That's great. I mean, it's pretty evenly developed. So when you look at that, you need to find more people that are going to just say, "Hey, if it's not fun, why are we doing this? This is about joy. This isn't just another burden. You know, we're not paying our taxes here. We're paying our pledges because it contributes to the kingdom of God. You know, so to look for people, you know, in a conscious way. Look for people that express something different than most of your vestry members express. Because again, it's in the wholeness, it's in all those expressions that we get to something that's really good and full. I mean, if we're all about one of those things, it's going to be a very one-dimensional decision. It's going to be a very one-dimensional church. So how can you bring on board people who have different kinds of expressions of leadership and value those? And again, the point being, which goes back to Stephen's point, is that if in a intense discussion at vestry, if someone disagrees with you, it's not because they don't like you, it's because they've got another perspective. And so how can we listen to that other perspective and incorporate it into what we do? Any questions about any of that?
No, this is Beth Moeller from Trinity Milford. Can you hear me?
Yes, Beth.
Okay. I want to, I'm not a new vestry member. I've been a warden and a vestry member. I'm currently the treasurer, but I thought today I saw the email pop up for this tonight, and I thought, you know what, I want to sit in again because I think it's always good to kind of just remind yourself. One, we've got a few new vestry people that are coming on, in our first meeting is next week, but I think at different times based on where you are as a congregation and as a parish and as a group of, faith followers, vestry members kind of take on different roles, right? There may be Sundays that you have to be very relational. It has to be, but I mean, I didn't hesitate, evidence-based. I didn't hesitate, but I think, you have to also kind of know that, there may be some Sundays where, I know for me, we've been going through a lot of change this past year, a lot of input from all of the congregation, and you kind of I had to sit back with the evidence, and for me, of course, it was like, well, what's our budget going to allow us? What's our funds going to allow us to do? And I had to sit back for that and really let like the relational and is it fun, folks take over. So, although I true at heart a yellow, I think that's the color you gave it. True at heart a yellow. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, all those positions are valid. But we need all those voices in the room.
Mm.
Well, let's hand it back over to Stephen.
Great. So as you continue or start in this role as vestry, we just wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the folks that are resources available to you. You know, if and you all know that we are in the midst of welcoming our bishop-elect, and we're excitedly working toward the consecration and all that will come with that, and her leadership. Um, but there's a whole group of folks that are available, and if you don't know who to contact about something, you can reach out to anyone in our office, and we'll make sure that you get connected with the right person. So one of those people is the bishop's chancellor, Donnie Allison. And his contact isn't kind of published out there, but if you have legal questions that come up, we are glad to be a resource. We can run it by Donnie for certain things. We'll connect him with you for other things. We may get some advice and figure out how to connect you with the appropriate legal advice. So things do come up, you know, everything from kind of real estate transactions to really sticky situations and employment things. So we've got legal resources available to you. Human resources. You probably may know, many of you, that in this diocese we offer centralized payroll. So all of our clergy and lay payroll goes through the diocese. Susan Olban, who you see there on the left, is our human resources specialist, and she does our clergy payroll, and she's a great resource for kind of all things HR around employment, letters of agreement, and again, sticky situations around employment. Melanie Stone, in addition to being our office manager, Melanie is there on the right. Melanie Stone does our lay payroll, so she's the one who coordinates all of that. And she's also a contact point for a lot of things that you all as vestry members may have to send into the diocese, things like the parochial report information, and your audit reports go to Melanie. Finances, Kim Foster, who you see pictured there, is our CFO, and she's available as a resource to treasurers especially, but folks who have financial questions. If you have questions about your endowment funds, you can reach out to Bob Perkins, but all the other treasurer questions, Kim is a great resource for all of those kind of things. If you send her an email, and if it requires a phone call, she's always happy to call you back. And she's supported in our office by Christina, who does a lot of the behind the scenes work. All right. Questions? What can we help you with in the 10 or so minutes that we have left? You have questions about anything vestry? Well, if you raise your hand, put it in the chat.
Yeah, you can raise your hand. You can unmute. I'll find you one way or the other. Any questions for Bishop or Stephen?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, Bishop, that you will be missed, and we have been very grateful having you. And I hope when you move on to the next part of your life, you continue to do the good work that you've been doing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a great team to work with all of you through these 13 plus years. Thank you. Are there any questions about the role of vestry when there's no priest? Because that's a hard time to be vestry, and it's an important time to be vestry. So are there any questions about that? Because there's a priest shortage. You know, we've talked about that many times. The priest shortage is going to be with us because as I've said many times, the baby boomer generation, like me, are retiring or going home to God. And so we don't have enough doctors anymore. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough plumbers. We don't have enough priests. And so do people want to talk about
Yes.
what happens when you don't have a priest, and where you can find resources and support, knowing that Stephen, myself, Miguelina, Vicky, all kinds of people are here for you. But what are the things you need when you don't have a priest?
So I'm with Holy Trinity in Southbridge, and we are fortunate. We have a priest, but came very close to being without for a period of time. So I would appreciate just 101 level of information about what happens when we're in that
Yeah.
situation.
Do you
Yeah,
want
and
to?
I'll say a little bit, and Stephen, you're more engaged in this than I am, and then maybe other people who have experienced the same thing can speak up, because it's really important.
Mhm.
And so again, the most important thing is that you're not in this alone. Um, you're that there's diocesan help, um, and I'm campaigning for help from different churches, in the sense that, and this might be a radical idea, but um, you know, some churches have a full-time priest, thank God, and other places can't afford a full-time priest, or they're in between, and they might go, and hopefully they get supplied clergy in, but they might go, literally several months without Eucharist. And so what I've been saying to our churches is, maybe this will take a while to take root, or maybe it's not a good idea, is that the places that have a full-time priest every Sunday, could they allow that priest to go to another parish once every other month, to have Eucharist with them, and then that church that has the luxury of a full-time priest, that one Sunday when he or she's not there, they do morning prayer, and they have a lay preacher. And we are in Diocese of Western Mass well set up to do that, because um, through these years we've trained over 150 lay people on how to lead morning prayer. Um, we've trained, and Stephen's a big part of this. We've trained over 50 lay people on how to preach. So it's not like, oh, the priest isn't there, why go to church? No, do you go to church for the sake of the community? You go there for the sake of hearing the word of God. You go there for the sake of experiencing God's grace. Um, and it's not all dependent on the priest being there. And so can we, in all these multiple situations where places have full-time clergy, places have less than full-time clergy, places have no clergy at all, can we enter into this together, so that it's not a haves and a have-nots? You've got a priest, you're great. We don't have a priest, we're not great. Nope, we are all in this together, and how to do that together. But your question's got a lot of different dimensions to it. So that's one dimension. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one of our big challenges, is to continue to grow into that sense of being church fully together. That we're not in this alone. And so part of what my role is to accompany those congregations in times of transition. And that can be a full-time clergy transition, or it can be a transition from a full-time to a part-time, or it can be congregations that are kind of living over a long period of time without a clergy present. And so we get creative. There's no one solution. And so I'll pick on Beth, who spoke earlier, because I think her congregation did some really thoughtful discernment
Yeah.
about what the core mission and values, and what was most important to them about the priest leadership that they could access. And then they figured out how the lay people could lift up the other pieces.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's hard work, but it's really valuable work when you engage everybody and what's important to us. And you know, we have transitioned to a halftime priest, so we have um, our rector with us twice a month in a Eucharist, and we have morning prayer the other Sundays. And
Mm.
um, there's just as many people in the pews when we have morning prayer, and we have a growing group of people that have taken the training. So all of the resources available to us for training prayer leaders and morning prayer leaders and worship leaders and those to give the start. But it's it's hard work, and when you're going through that type of transition, it does fall on the vestry not to make all the decisions. We made these decisions to move forward as a parish and a lot of input. But it's up to the vestry to make sure that they're listening, that everybody's voice is heard, you know. No matter if you've got somebody that says, oh no, it's never going to be church unless I have a priest and a Eucharist every Sunday, right? But that person's voice is important to kind of bring along on that journey, as much as somebody that says, nope, sign me up, I'll lead morning prayer, change is good. So it's, but the other thing about going through change like that, especially with moving from having a priest all the time, is that those other things that are really important to you, like coffee hour, or, if you have a harvest dinner, or for us, it's the Christmas fair, all of those things become so much more important to continue so that the fabric of the parish doesn't seem to go away just because you don't have somebody at church every single Sunday. So it becomes much harder because sometimes, you're talking about, okay, what are we going to do for, Ash Wednesday? And okay, now what are we doing here? What are we doing there? So the vestry then is counted on to kind of make sure those things that are important continue. That's been my take.
Thank you, Beth.
Mm.
I really put you on the spot, but you just.
That's okay.
And I'm going to throw one more. I'm aware of our time, but I'm going to throw one very technical resource, kind of on the other end of the spectrum. What are the little random things that come up in the course of the year that you're supposed to fill out and send to the diocese, that kind of stuff? We're in the process of, this isn't a final draft, but I'm going to pop it in the chat that, kind of a resource for you to check. What are the things that we're going to work on this month?
Stephen, we also have another hand up.
Yep.
Tim, did you want to jump in?
Sure. Being in a parish that just went 18 months without having a priest, you become not only you become all the colors of a leader. You got to be relational. You got to, a lot of it's evidence based, and you got to be a big picture person. But you also say to yourself constantly, this isn't much fun. Why are we doing this? But it's very hard to find that balance. And I think as a vestry, we didn't always agree, but we found a new, different kind of respect for each other and how to deal with each other for the big picture of finding a priest. And we did. And at the end of the day, coming out the other side of the tunnel, it is tough, but it's when you finally have that new ministry service, that all that work that you did is worth it. So that's, it's not an easy time, but you'll get through it. It's a lot of prayer, and you get to see a lot about yourself and your congregation. And the Holy Cow survey which we took made us look at ourselves in a different way. So I'm big picture anyway, but it going through the discernment of not having a priest really makes you be a more of a big picture leader. But you force yourself to be all the other ones too at the same time. It's a tough balance, but it's a lot of leaning on each other and a lot of prayer. So
Thank you for that, Tim. Thank you.
I have on that.
We have another
point about all that is that, in terms of churches and what they do, the common line once was, well, if your church closed, would the neighborhood notice? And I can say for every single one of our 51 churches, if your church closed, the neighborhood would notice. Every single church has a tremendously vital ministry, and so you're the vestry. You don't have a priest, but you've got this vital ministry that's going on, and you've got a vital ministry that's going on internally as well, because pastoral care is a huge part of what we do. And if the priest isn't there, can you be offering pastoral care? Can you be visiting those who need visitation? Can you providing a shoulder to cry on. That's what the church does, and and it's not just the priest that does that. So how do you all embody that, and how do you get people engaged in that work?
Yeah.
Bishop, we have a couple more hands to get in. We have Sandy Album from Atonement.
Hi, everybody. And I'm just going to slip this in because I know we're almost out of time. But because of the ice tonight, the peace vigil at Atonement in Westfield is postponed to tomorrow night. So I could be here for this. But I invite you and all of your folks to a vigil praying for peace at Church of the Atonement in Westfield tomorrow night at 7.
Thank you, Sandy. Anne?
I also have a quick one for those of us who are newer to the region. Where are you and how do we get a hold of you? What are your offices and what is it called?
Are you asking about diocesan offices, Anne?
Yes, Stephen. And he said, call me, I'm accessible. And I'm like, where are you?
I'll drop something in the chat there, Stephen.
Good, thank you. Vicky's going to put the official
Sure.
info and how to get us, and I can put my direct email in there as well. I'll give you my office number, but I have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head. But we're located in Springfield at the in the office part of the Cathedral building, so in downtown Springfield, and I always welcome visitors. Give us a call and drop in if you're in the area.
Thanks, Anne. We have another hand from Janet.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I just have a quick question for any of you, I guess. So I'm new to the Diocese of Western Mass and new on the Vestry. I'm at Grace Church in Amherst. But a week after I found out our priest was leaving, so I'm going to be part of that transition. And what I've learned is there's a lot of retired priests in our community, and I feel like we're leaning on them pretty heavily. And I'm just curious of your thoughts of that transition and kind of how best to work with the retired priests in the community.
That's a great question. And I think it's a both and question because it's, I'm out there with the retired clergy too in terms of, lunches that we have together and all that. I always say, I want to respect your retirement. That's really important. And can you give one Sunday a month? Can you give one Sunday every other month? And to negotiate that too. I mean, a big part of being a priest on Sunday is preparing your sermon, right? And so could you, again, we've got lots of lay preachers now that have been educated, could you say to a retired priest, listen, you don't have to spend 10 hours working on a sermon. We just need you to lead us in prayer, and we've got someone else that's going to preach the sermon. So it's a mix of things like that. There's no easy answer to what you're saying. And it's going to be reliant on each particular retired clergy person. But they're out there. They want to help, but they also want to help within the limits that they have on themselves.
Yep, I would second all that, and know that we're in conversation with leadership in your congregation, and we're getting there. So
I look forward to working with you more.
Yeah.
Stephen and Vicky, this is Megan in Northborough.
Megan.
Hi. I've heard some feedback from some licensed lay preachers, more than just one, several, that they don't know who needs preaching. They don't know who to reach out to and say they're available, like churches that need lay preachers. More than one has said, who needs preachers? And I said, ask Stephen. So I would maybe send an email out to the lay preachers. Several of the ones in the Worcester area don't know who needs help.
I'm just going to jump in for a second with my own wondering. When I was licensed to be a lay preacher, I was told that I was licensed for that congregation. So the parameters of that ministry are in the congregation that raises you up to be a lay preacher. Does that sound right, Bishop?
That sounds right, and I think we should change it.
Yeah. I've had a couple of folks reach out to me, and I've talked with them. I think that I think I think we should explore it. I also know that many congregations are looking to work with their own folks. So I think a lot of the folks that are looking for that supply are looking for the Eucharist piece. So it's kind of a both end of making that change. But I think a lot of folks are yeah. So I'm hearing there's appetite for that, and that's helpful to know. And the supply list stays updated whenever we have updated. It's on the website. I don't know if Vicky, you have the link handy. If you could pop it in
Sure,
the
I'll
chat.
take care of that, Stephen.
Thank you, Vicky.
And
Janet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a real quick question too. Just again, being new to the Diocese of Western Mass, how active are the deacons within the communities? And I would think that they would be a great resource to lean on during transition within leadership as well.
Janet, thank you for that. That's a great question, and there's two dimensions to that. One is that they can come forward, they can lead prayer, they can preach, but it's been really consistent, not only in our diocese but throughout the whole country, is that deacons and priests are equal, but they're not the same. So that deacons are not mini priests, and so what we've found out in some of our places that lack a priest and have intervened in this successfully is that they say, okay, well, now the priest isn't here anymore, so the deacon's the clergy person. So he or she's going to do everything that the priest used to do. Well, that's unjust because they've got another job for one thing, and it's a different vocation. They felt called to be a deacon, which means bringing the church to the world and the world to the church. The person who chose to be a priest is looking for sacramental ministry, for leading a community, and those are different vocations. So if you don't have a priest, yes, a deacon can help you out, but we've had this happen. You can't have the deacon constructing the parish bulletin on Sunday, even if the priest did that. That's not the deacon's job. The deacon's job is to bring the mission of the church to the world, and then bring the needs of the world to the church. And so it's a both end. Yes, deacons can be very helpful, but they can't be a substitute for your priest. That's not their vocation. Does that make sense?
Good questions, folks. And I think I want to honor folks' time. We're a little bit past where we said we'd end. So unless there's anything really burning, I wonder if we should ready to wrap it up. I don't know, Bishop, do you have any closing words for us?
Well, just again, really grateful. You are essential to the church. This isn't, you're essential to the church, and we need your wisdom, we need your time, we need your dedication, and you need to do it in a way that is okay for all the rest of the things that go on in your life. But just again, I just want to appreciate you and say how important you are, and thank God for you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Let's unmute so we can say goodnight to each other.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Care.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Stephen.